And welcome into the Monday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everybody had a fabulous holiday weekend. Welcome back to the real world this week. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How we doing?
Doing okay. Yes. Time for a little food detox.
You had a very busy weekend, from what I hear. Very busy.
Yeah, a lot of driving, and some bad football and a lot of food. So there you go.
Nick Keyser, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Could not be any happier about my holiday. So we are all good. I did not kill a turkey personally, so we are doing
That's good.
fine.
A lot of people concerned about that after the choice is yours the other day. So I'm glad
Rightfully
that you
so.
left things alone. It's
No
good stuff there.
torturing, no killing. Good to hear.
That's always good. Joe, the mighty team that could not yield,
hmm
they yielded a little bit on Thanksgiving Day. It was fun to watch.
Oh, I'm sure it was fun to watch for you. It was fun to watch for me too. Although, you know, being around a bunch of Lions fans in their Lions jerseys, I kind of felt for him, but also it's like, this is what happens, guys. This is what happens if you buy into this team. Yeah, they're not very good.
Not very good.
No, they're not very good. I mean, they're not a contender at all.
Okay. I was just checking. I mean, they're 8-3, so I don't
Yeah,
want to.
they're 8-3.
I don't want to completely bury them, but yeah, it was fun.
They'll probably get into the playoffs. But yeah, Jordan Love, I tell you what, man,
2 in a row. He's looked pretty good.
he made every throw. He made some really impressive throws, kind of off schedule too. I was impressed.
Sunday night, Kansas City, Green Bay. Be there coming up this weekend. Looking forward to it.
Ooh, my goodness.
It'd
That's
be
fun.
awesome. We got a lot to get to on the program here today. We'll be joined by Corey Curtis at 8 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans. What a win yesterday for the Tennessee Titans. I'm sure people all across the state are thrilled with the football game that we got to see at Nissan Stadium yesterday. We'll get hot and heavy into that throughout the show. The Rob Rant coming up at 7:45, directed specifically at Joe Rexrode and his cronies. Looking forward to that at 7:45.
Nice.
And we'll take your thoughts all show long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. The Titans do win yesterday, 17-10 at Nissan Stadium. The broadcast on Fox yesterday, Joe, Adam Amin opened up by saying, if you're watching this game, you really love football. And that's a pretty good way to describe it yesterday. The Titans win 17-10 against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina falls to 1-10. They are absolutely terrible. The Titans improved to 4-7. I'm not sure that they're a ton better, but they were better than the Carolina Panthers yesterday. What a win for the mighty Tennessee Titans yesterday, Joe, at Nissan Stadium, in front of a crowd that was, in your words, maybe the lightest that it's been in Nissan Stadium in a while.
Yeah, now someone came back at me on Twitter, which I'll always call Twitter, and said there was a cold weather game last year where the crowd, or where he thought the crowd is lighter. So, I mean, that's possible, but um, to me, just my recollection, it was the lightest crowd, and I don't think last year or the year before. I mean, it might be, obviously then you don't count the COVID year, so I think it's been a while. Noticeable difference, and no surprise. There's no Carolina Panthers fans who, unless they happen to live here, who are going to be in that stadium, right?
I don't think so.
I mean, they are. That's a bad team, and apparently, the owner of the Panthers, David Tepper, was seen screaming f-bombs into the hallway after the game yesterday. That's Joe Person, who covers the Panthers for the Athletic, tweeted that. I'm like, oh, I think Frank Reich may be a one and done here.
He might be.
And there are a couple moments of that game where I'm like, oh boy, I miss Frank Reich, man. There's some interesting decisions, but it was a crowd that was fitting for this game, and look, I will say that the fans who were there were a hearty group in a cool mist, and made pretty good noise and seemed to enjoy the win. You don't apologize for winning this league.
You don't apologize for winning in this league. Titans are now 4-0 at Nissan Stadium, so make of that what you will. Nissan Stadium, they've played very good football throughout the year. I don't know that I would describe yesterday as very good football from the Titans. They scored 17 points in the first half and did not score again after the half, so it was kind of reminiscent of last year when they did that a few times, but they were able to hold on just long enough, and they get the 17-10 win. Derrick Henry, 18 carries, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He averaged 4.2 per carry. Will Levis, 18-28, 185 yards. We'll get specifically into Levis coming up here in just a few minutes. But the story of the day, I thought, really was the front four and their ability to put pressure on Bryce Young and get to the quarterback, and they did that often yesterday. Joe, I didn't think I could find an offensive line that is worse than the Titans. But I think Carolina's might be worse than the Titans. Just astoundingly good offensive line play that I'm sure the rest of the league was watching yesterday at Nissan Stadium and taking notes on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out. I know there are other bad offensive lines, but if there's a worse offensive line matchup in the NFL this year, someone needs to show it to me. And this is, look, I do give credit for for the Titans. Give credit to the Titans for affecting the quarterback and being constantly in the backfield, and Danico Autry's flying around. Those guys played hard. Arden Key, first time I'd seen that dude in a while. He was frequently causing trouble, but it's also it's like, okay, so what does that mean? I do think they play better at home, but also I think very much enjoyed going against that offensive line. It is atrocious. I mean, again, with Bryce Young, the Titans, think about this. Like, the Titans' defensive plan was like they had 3 keys every week. Simmons was talking about this after the game, and one, like, a big theme was like, keep it simple and don't try to do something it's not familiar. Basics, fundamentals, all that stuff. But one of the 3 keys was, stop 19. I mean, think about that. Like, your game plan is like, ooh, we got to stop Adam Thielen.
They treated Adam Thielen yesterday like he was prime Calvin Johnson. Like, we gotta make sure that guy doesn't beat us.
Right. And so they did, and he got 2 yards. And I, stupidly started him in the Titans Media League in the clash of the best 2 teams that might lose because of it. But that's not the most important thing. The important thing is that tells you how awful the Carolina Panthers are, that it can be your game plan, and then you can stop them. I mean, Bryce Young just has no chance.
No, it's obviously I've not spent a whole lot of time watching Carolina Panthers football this year, mercifully so. So I got to watch them for an entire game for the first time. It is really impressive how bad they are. And the thing is, like, I look at their receiving core, and with Chark, who, has made some plays in his time in the league. Thielen's made some plays. Shenault, as we know from, if you're a Titans fan, watching them in Jacksonville. And then Mingo, it's like, okay, well, maybe throughout the year they could have gotten a little bit better. It's like, no, they're terrible. Their offensive line is awful. Nobody can get open. I don't know. Like, I came away from yesterday kind of similar to some conversations that we've had about Levis so far this year in some games. I don't know how you properly evaluate Bryce Young with what's around him right now. And I'm with you. Like, I know that their roster is terrible. So conventional wisdom would tell you that, well, what's a coach supposed to do in this situation? Frank Reich is bad. I think Frank Reich is a bad football coach, and I think he might be on the way out after year 1.
Yeah, it's not like the entirety of his tenure at Indy was all nothing but bad, but it just, just some of the decisions, are head scratching, and they were there too. And Tepper is clearly you don't see too many owners who are willing to just run around screaming F-bombs after a game. It's like, hey, you were 1-9. I mean, I guess he just really wanted to get to 2-9 and avoid getting to 1-10. I mean, obviously they lost.
Why was yesterday like the tipping point for him? It's like,
yeah,
okay.
I guess it must have been like, okay, this team's so bad we can actually win this game, right? And that's what both teams were saying going into yesterday. But yeah, no, I think the writing's on the wall there. I mean, some people wonder if, they'll get to the end of the season. I mean, which is just amazing, to think about an NFL coach not getting through one season. But David Tepper is that kind of hothead.
Yep, and the Titans take advantage of it yesterday. They win against Carolina. Like I said, 17 points in the first half, couple of Derrick Henry touchdowns, a nice drive by the Titans toward the end of the half to get in position for a Nick Folk field goal. Nick Folk drills the 53-yard field goal. So it felt like, Joe, the Titans were well on their way to another 27, 28, 30-point outing at home. It stalled out in the second half for the Titans offensively, and they didn't get there, but they do improve to 4-0 at home on the season at this point. How did Will Levis play yesterday? What did we make of yesterday's performance from the Titans quarterback? We'll get into all that and more. Take your thoughts on it as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts all show long. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning, taking your thoughts. The Titans win yesterday, 17-10. Your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, Will Levis, 18 of 28, 185 yards yesterday for the Titans. Like I said, 17 points for the offense in the first half, nothing in the second half for the Titans offensively. Overall, what did you make of Will Levis and his performance yesterday against the Panthers?
Yeah, I mean, I thought mostly good throws, mostly good decisions. He said afterward, and I agree, there were a couple throws that were surprising to see him miss, where he was able to step into a throw and just missed it. And so obviously, to me, after he came out, I mean, those are the two things for me. Is like, is he going to be like absolute laser accuracy, all the time or enough of the time to be a great NFL quarterback? And then obviously the picks that he had in college. He did almost throw a pick yesterday, telegraphing a quick shot to Hopkins. But I thought it was good. And he continues to stand in there with the rush. Actually, I thought that the protection also was not bad. Again, it's amazing how your pass rush looks good. Whoa, good job against the Panthers. And your pass protection looks way better against the Panthers. Now they do have one stud and Brian Burns, and he caused havoc a couple times, but Levis stood in there. Of course, you see the whole field in the press box, and I'm sitting next to TD at home games, and there were a few plays like, oh man, right there, Kyle Phillips just broke free downfield. That's a touchdown if he sees it. Hopkins, that's a touchdown maybe if he sees it. But
Yep.
that's a very easy thing to do in the press box. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I think it continued, and just even his descriptions after the game of plays, and I think he's accountable and self-aware and really smart, and is just week after week, picking up on the little nuances operationally and everything else. And I think it was another step forward for him.
Yeah, overall, I thought he was fine. I mean, he did have a couple of drives in the second half where he missed some throws. He had Hopkins coming across the middle that he threw behind him a little bit. There was another play, I think the drive after that, where he did have Hopkins come open, which could have been a touchdown. He kind of missed the throw on the sideline over there. So it wasn't perfect from Will Levis, but I did think, he made some good plays, good decisions with the ball. The drive to lead them down the field to get the field goal, I thought was impressive from him before the half, and they were able to run up, clock the ball. Just the operation continues to be something that's really good with him. From a rookie quarterback, I don't know, Joe, you tell me, throughout his time as a starter so far, I mean, we can talk about the offensive line and the struggles that way, but overall, just like from an operation standpoint, I think they've been pretty clean there. And you don't always see that with rookie quarterbacks. I think the operation continued to be pretty clean for the Titans for the most part yesterday. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, because that tells me that, number one, he knows the playbook. He knows, everything that he's supposed to be doing out there. And number two, the film study and the mental side of things feel like they're in a pretty good spot with Will Levis right now, which is good to see out of a rookie quarterback.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, I think, he's going to be one of those guys who, does extra and really tries to refine all that stuff. And I think he's already got a great handle. He's already even talking about, you talk about, rookie quarterback stuff. He's talking about kind of, spending the week making sure he's getting Jalen Duncan hyped up to be left tackle, and he's talking to this guy and that guy. Like, he's already trying to embrace the leadership thing too, which also isn't easy for a rookie quarterback. But yeah, I think all that stuff is going to be good. And you watch him play, and again, it's not perfect. It could have been better yesterday, but you watch him play, and you imagine a legit offensive line in front of him, and more people to throw to, and you see how it could be pretty good.
On the receiving front yesterday for the Titans, Hopkins with 3 catches, 49 yards. Chigakonkwo, 4 catches, 45 yards. Chris Moore, 3 for 41, and then NWI, 4 for 41 yesterday as well. I will say the Chigakonkwo catch, which I think that may have been the 25-yarder that he caught, which was as Levis is getting hit. I thought the ball was going to scrape the top of the sky. He put it up so high, but good touch, good loft. And Chigakonkwo, 4 catches on 5 targets yesterday. So nice to see Chig with a decent game. Didn't have any drops, so that was good to see.
Yeah, that was a big play and could have been a touchdown, but that was a pretty impressive throw. Now, another throw that was a lollipop that, to me, Will Levis needs to buy Tyjae Spears dinner or 2 this week, because that's a get your guy blown up throw to Tyjae Spears, which I thought should have held up. I mean, you watch the replay, and I don't think the guy was malicious, but it's also like, I mean, as much as they police safety in the game, and as many, and I know a lot of that's around the quarterback, right? I mean, it's different for everybody else than it is for the quarterback. I thought they should have kept the flag on that, but he did. I mean, Vrabel really didn't think so after the game.
I didn't
You
either.
know?
I
I knew,
had no problem
I
with
knew
it,
you
though.
wouldn't think so. I figured we might argue about this play. Yeah, I honestly, I totally, I get it because the intent when you look at it in slow motion wasn't there, but also like those plays aren't in slow motion, so
Right.
I think you still have to pull up a little bit more than that guy did. But regardless, yeah, you throw.
That's the
I mean,
highlight of the Carolina Panthers season. You're trying to take it away from them the next day.
well, the thing is, even when they show the highlight reel, the flag will be out, so like they won't even remember that it got picked up. But yes, that is going to lead their highlight tape. But that is a throw where it's like you even in today's NFL, where like like guys are a lot more careful, you still get someone hurt doing that stuff.
It was good to see Spears get back up and play after that game because it's one of those
Jeez.
collisions where when you're that quick and that violent, you wonder, is that going to be something that knocks him out? And to his credit, Spears, I mean, he got up. I think they went over to the sideline and checked him out real quick, and then the next drive he was back in there. So that was good to see from Spears on that front. I agree. Like that's one of those balls that you throw and it leaves your hand and you're like, oh boy, I don't know. Especially if like it's the old days in the NFL, it's different now. But like in the old days in the NFL, when Ray Lewis is wandering across the middle over there, that one could have
Oh,
ended very poorly.
jeez. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Mike Singletary.
Oh
Some
yeah.
Ronnie Lott playing safety, and I mean, he's going for the decapitation, and there's no flag. It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that could have been bad. I got a text
yeah.
that says Levis with no touchdowns or interceptions and a quarterback rating of 83. Not bad with this line, so I see improvement. Good experience for next year. Proves that they still need Derrick Henry, though. This is from an unnamed texter on the text line. Derrick Henry, I thought yesterday, Joe, was good. I mean, he didn't have to do a ton. He obviously the 2 touchdowns that he had on the ground did not get to 100 yards, did not get to 20 carries, and the Titans won. So what does that mean? Only 18 carries and a win for the Titans yesterday.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess we just have to change the narrative to 18 or more,
I guess so.
and they're guaranteed to win. But yeah, he. Well, look, it's interesting when you look at usage. I mean, Spears got 2 carries. Derrick got 18. Spears had one the one catch for 1 yard. So it was I think without looking at the game log, I think it's clearly the lowest usage and production from Spears in a game, and they leaned heavily on Henry. And yeah, I thought he was good. He had a really nice run late, which I think was 18-yarder late. That was a big play. A lot of it was a lot of the same stuff, just grinding into the line. But hey, look, man, that's what they're built around. And games like this, especially you get a lead, it's great to have them. I thought, other than I guess him, that Levis and really the entire team was much better in the first half than the second half. I mean, this absolutely could have. I thought we might be looking at a total blowout here. It's 17-3. They get the full 53-yarder, and it's like the Panthers just want to pack it up. And the fact that it was 7-0 Panthers after the half, pretty disappointing, I'd say. And also just made for a 30 minutes of just eyesore football.
I tell you what, though, that Ryan Stonehouse, he continues to be the player of the game every week. 71-yarder yesterday for Stonehouse, 53.7 per punt, 5 of them inside the 20. Stonehouse is silently building a case for Titans MVP.
Well, he was the 71-yarder, which also where was that down? It was down inside the 10, right?
Yep.
Or down at the 5 or whatever. That was incredible. He also had, he had another one where it's like, you had a couple touchbacks that he was trying not to be touchbacks. So we're holding Ryan Stonehouse to a high standard. He's going to be this team's MVP. But yeah, 53.7 per punt. I'm trying to think I can't find the net. Why can't I find the net? But he's ridiculous. I mean, he's their best player.
He seriously might be. It's pretty
which we've said somewhat jokingly before about Brett Kern. I mean, the Titans punting tradition is rich.
Yes, it's a rich tradition of punting that it just continues to be the envy of the NFL year after year. Obviously, Joe, we kind of knew this was probably going to be the case yesterday when the week of practice began, but no Treylon Burks once again for the Titans yesterday. So I guess you're back on Treylon Burks' watch for this next week as it relates to him and the concussion and coming off the injury, but not good to not have Traylon Burks back out there again. And it makes you wonder, like, what the rest of this year is going to look like for him with him missing yet another game on Sunday.
Yeah, I imagine that will come up today, with Vrabel. And I don't think there'll be any answer today, but I would say, you get to this point, like if he's not able to go this week, we've talked about this before. Concussions, the timelines can vary widely for sure, but you probably get a little more concerned. Like, what does that mean if he can't go, by this week? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about something more than, just like a guy with a concussion? And look, you see it. I thought, yesterday you had what, 8 guys caught passes spread around. You had 5 targets apiece for Hopkins, Chig, NWI, 4 for Chris Moore. It was, he was a little bit more involved, which was good to see. But yeah, this offense could really use a Traylon Burks in it, and got the Colts coming in. So it is a rivalry week. So that's one of the big stories of this week.
Yep, no question about that. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Coming up next, could the Titans maybe have found an answer at the left tackle position, at least for the remainder of this season? We'll get into that, evaluate Jalen Duncan's performance yesterday. That's coming up. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night, you win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with us tomorrow morning at 8:45. Pick to Click brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Jalen Duncan, his first start, left tackle. How do you feel he did? I know it was a sack by Burns, but overall.
I'll have to be able to take a look at the tape. I don't have the best view of the left tackle, but I felt like, at least it was a start. And again, probably had some good plays in there. It was, great his effort and see if he was finishing and competing. And, again, it's a great place to start. It was a great opportunity. It's good edge rushers and good interior players. So, good place to start for Jalen.
That was Mike Vrabel after the game yesterday. Titans win 17-10. They improved to 4-7 overall on the year. Jalen Duncan starting at left tackle for the Titans yesterday. Dylan Radunz over on the right side. So Chris Hubbard now out for the Titans. Obviously, they're without Nicholas Petit-Frere as well. And we've seen what Andre Dillard looks like over there. Joe, I realize it's the Carolina Panthers, so that's probably the number one caveat in this discussion. But you do look at the numbers, and Will Levis only sacked one time yesterday and only 4 quarterback hits for the Panthers. So in the grand scheme of things, when you start to line those numbers up with some of the way that the rest of these games have gone from the Titans, that would suggest a pretty good performance by the offensive line. Now, again, it is the Carolina Panthers, but overall, what did you make of the line yesterday, and what did you think of Jalen Duncan at left tackle?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of made a point to watch him a fair amount of the day, and I have no idea how the Titans coaches will grade him. More importantly, how will PFF grade him? I mean, that's
a great question.
That's John Glennon. I need that tweet this morning, buddy. But I thought he held up pretty well. He's an athletic guy. He kind of fits the bill. Is a huge opportunity for him. He a couple times for sure he got beat quickly. But yeah, look, I think it was better than Andre Dillard, and I guess you watch that game and you could say, what took so long, but he came in with the book on Jalen Duncan was lots of ability, but lots of technique issues and like a project. And I think that's exactly how it looked to me in camp. So I think what you're seeing from him, which is interesting because, of course, we've talked about assistant coaches and players improving and all this stuff. He looks to me like someone who's really taken to coaching and has really improved over months here with the Titans. So that can happen. I mean, I don't think they would have put him out there in September. And if they did, it probably wouldn't have been pretty. I know he's had a little spot duty here and there because they've been so banged up, but yeah, I thought it was pretty encouraging. I don't think this necessarily changes a draft strategy for anybody or anything, but if he's going to be a somewhat reliable player, can he be your swing tackle, and then you feel pretty good about your swing tackle if you go get a left tackle or whatever it is. I think he's starting to identify himself as a guy who they can move forward with and he can have some kind of a role. And they need as many guys like that as possible. They're way too short on guys like that.
Well, I'm with you on the draft part of this. Like, we're a long way away from Jalen Duncan playing his way into like a starting spot for the Titans as they move forward next season. So that's kind of the caveat in this discussion. Now, what we talked about last week and what we talked about as it relates to Skoronski moving to left tackle and all these things is like, can you get your quarterback through the rest of this year? Like, can you get your quarterback through the rest of this season where you can maybe a little bit more properly evaluate him and the progress that he's making? And is Jalen Duncan right now your best option at left tackle in order to do that for the rest of the year? I don't know. Through one game, I think you like what you've seen. Now, again, it's the Carolina Panthers. So when Indy comes rolling in on Sunday, will it look different? Can the Titans offensive line hold up against them? I mean, you got the Dolphins coming up on the schedule, the Texans a couple of times. So, I mean, they're going to be tested as to what they can do here. But overall, I'm with you. Like, I thought for the most part, he held up pretty well. Now, I am interested to see what the Titans have to say about that. And, of course, what our friends at PFF have to say with the grades coming up for sure. But overall, through one game, as Rabel said, I thought it was a good place to start. Now, where do you go from here if you're Jalen Duncan? And is he going to end up being the best option that they have at left tackle? And I think, by process of elimination, he might already be the best option they have for the rest of the season at left tackle.
Yeah, it'd be great for them if he can grow into this and keep getting better, and then they've got that figured out. Obviously it didn't go well for Radunz. It's really interesting because Radens has talked so many times in colorful ways about how the left side is more comfortable for him. But I think it's probably what it comes down to with Radens is, like it's just a little bit less of an issue if you get beat on the right side. And so I think Radens is going to stay over there, and it's not great, when they play teams that have multiple good pass rushers, but I think that's probably how it's going to look. And then Dillard available for emergency duty, which is quite a shift from what the hopes were when Andre Dillard was signed.
I need to find the person who tweeted this so I can go back and properly give them credit. And I'm going to seek that out as the segment goes on here. But there was a picture that came across my timeline yesterday, Joe, of a Titans fan walking into Nissan Stadium for the game wearing an Andre Dillard jersey, which I thought, is that like a relative of Andre Dillard, or is somebody just an expert level troll and they were able to spend money on buying an Andre Dillard jersey? But I never thought I'd see a Titans Andre Dillard jersey worn by anybody other than him. But we found one yesterday walking into Nissan Stadium.
That's fantastic. Yeah, maybe a family member. Is it possible that someone was so excited when the Titans signed him, former first-round pick? Maybe. Going to be the new left tackle that they just got ahead of the curve?
Maybe so.
That'd be my favorite if that were the case. Did we ever see anyone in a Dennis Daly jersey?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Andre Dillard is better than Dennis Daly.
Preston Penn, the real Prez 10, took a picture of somebody in a Dillard jersey walking into the stadium. Good for them. Look, I respect it. I mean, you can find some doozies of Titans jerseys, Preds jerseys over the years. Like, I know a good friend of mine that had a Nicholas Bergfors Predators jersey, which might be the only one in existence other than one he wore when he was here for 11 games or whatever it was. But he's got to be the only Andre Dillard jersey out there of this guy walking into the stadium yesterday. Has to be.
Yeah, no, it's I respect it. I respect it. I mean, I told you guys this, or maybe I said this on the show. I mean, my Aunt Mary went to the Lions-Bucks game with all these family members this year, and she ordered a TJ Hawkinson jersey. It's like, hey, Aunt Mary, he plays for the Vikings now, but you know what? It looks nice. It looks good.
Jared from Spring Hill on the text line says, we are playing our way right into an offensive lineman. Keyword, offensive. This is from Jared from Spring Hill. Look, yesterday, I think if you're a Titans fan, it wasn't that bad from the offensive line yesterday. Who cares if it was the Carolina Panthers? For one day, can we enjoy the offensive line maybe pass blocking pretty well yesterday? Because it may not happen again the rest of the year, Joe.
Yeah, hey, I mean, and Brian Burns is really good, by the way. And now Brian Burns also, one time he absolutely left Duncan, left him standing there, and maybe more than once. And he lined up all over the place. But I mean, at least he is a legit guy. So the run blocking was okay, I mean, but there were some beyond like you said, the 1 sack, 4 hits, there were some plays where Levis had, even if the pocket wasn't necessarily clean, like it ended up being quite a bit of time to throw, more than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, quite a bit of time to throw. And, I don't know. Obviously, look, I'm not saying they want Will Levis running all the time, because I don't think they do. Outside of just a few guys in the NFL, you don't want your quarterback really running around all that much. So I get that. I do wonder, though, like with the foot and being on the injury report and missing a day of practice last week, like how much right now is Levis's mobility limited a little bit? Because I did think, Joe, there were a couple opportunities yesterday maybe for him to take off, and he just didn't do it. Not saying that, I mean, he made the throw, so he saw something down the field. So you'd rather your quarterback do that. But I do wonder, like, from Levis's perspective, is he a little bit hobbled right now where he's a little hesitant to run down the field?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. And yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe, because, I kind of forgot during this game. I did about the foot, but I thought with this many games, I thought we'd probably see a little bit more running. Look, I mean, I'm a big fan of quarterbacks who navigate the pocket and have a feel for it, and then keep those eyes downfield and make throws off that. I think that's the most effective thing you do. But here and there, it's really effective too if you can make a defense have to pay and go take 8-10 yards, especially if they're in man or something, and one side of the field's cleared out, and you make them pay, and it just makes it more troublesome for the defense. I thought we'd see a little bit more of that. I still think we could see that eventually a little bit more in his game.
I think so at some point too, because that was a big part of his game in college, his ability to extend plays and run around a little bit there. So I do wonder if like the foot's holding him back from that standpoint. But honestly, offensive line wise, like for the most part, I think they held up well. Skoronski, had a couple good plays where they showed it on the Fox broadcast where Derrick Henry's hitting a hole and Skoronski's there just mauling someone. So I know it's a guard, and we can get into the drafting the guard at number 11 overall, but I thought he had some pretty good snaps yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He's, and like someone else texted him, and they, need scrum. Oh, someone somewhat overrated stat. Some of it is like when, teams don't even need to play offense against them to just, win. But yeah, they're not, it's not like it's an atrocious defense. It's an atrocious offense.
Yes.
So it's a fine their defense can hang in there in the NFL. It's a legitimate NFL defense. Their offense is not a legitimate NFL offense. They don't play complementary football. So, but and again, the Titans, they also, by the way, had the best defensive success against the Titans overall of any team. Titans averaging 27.3 points a game, and at home, the Panthers held them 10 points under that. So kudos to the Panthers. David Tepper should be excited about his defense.
Way to go, Carolina. Speaking of defense, we'll get into that side of the ball for the Titans yesterday. Where has that pass rush been? Where have those front four guys been all season long? We'll get into that. We'll also get into some of the scuttlebutt around Mike Vrabel from over the weekend as well. All that coming up. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Titans win 17-10. Taking your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. By the way, Preds win last night too. So if you were out there yesterday, Joe, and you performed the double dip, the Titans game at noon and then the Preds game at 7 o'clock last night, two victorious teams in our city yesterday. Preds won 5 in a row. So how about that?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about, seemed like it was yesterday. We're talking about, well, Preds 5-10 and, it's embrace the youth and all this. And now all of a sudden they just can't be stopped. Pretty amazing. And fun stuff, for the fans to kind of have the combo of some of those young guys come along. You look at like Evangelista, how he's responded to, the healthy scratch, and then also actually winning games.
They've won 5 in a row. The Titans win yesterday, a day of winning here in the city of Nashville. And Joe, a big part of that for the Titans yesterday was the pass rush. They end up with 4 sacks against Bryce Young credited with 6 quarterback hits. It felt like they had more than 6 quarterback hits, but that's just me. But yes. Arden Key with a nice strip sack yesterday of Bryce Young. Jeffrey Simmons with the fumble recovery there. So Simmons also ends up with a sack yesterday. Arden Key has 1. Danico Autry with 2 sacks yesterday. So that front 4 that we talked so much about this year not being impactful enough, they were pretty impactful yesterday. And the question is, well, where has that been all year long? Is the answer yesterday simple as, well, the Panthers' offensive line is atrocious, and don't expect that out of that group as they move forward here. But it was nice to see, at least for one Sunday, Arden Key. I swear to you, Joe, when he made the sack and the strip sack and the fumble, I was like, oh, yeah, hey, look there. Arden Key. He plays for the Titans. Legitimately my reaction.
Yeah, me too. It's like, oh, hey, 49. I remember that guy. Yeah, and I tell you what, that was not the last time we saw him causing trouble. I agree. 6 hits sounds really light. There were a few plays, I suppose, where they totally overwhelmed the Panthers and Bryce Young just ran all over the place and didn't get hit, but it still counted to me as a really good pass rush rep. But Autry looks like a game wrecker. Simmons, I mean, the difference in the game is the strip sack. And Simmons was all, if the left tackle there hadn't been destroyed by Key as bad as he did, he wouldn't have been in position to tackle Simmons, and Simmons would have had 2 straight weeks with a touchdown. But I thought Landry, he looked good running around. So, I mean, it's the Panthers. It's a terrible offensive line. These guys have not done this nearly enough against better groups, but maybe this is a confidence builder for them. Get a little momentum going. It still should be the best part of this football team.
I mean, Rashad Weaver made a couple plays yesterday, which was like, hey, Rashad Weaver,
remember him
making some plays. So it's amazing how the Carolina Panthers offense is the cure-all for all these defenses, except apparently for like Christian Fulton committing penalties in the Titans secondary. Apparently, not even the Panthers can slow that down.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, those are close. One of them I didn't love one of the calls, but yeah, Christian Fulton gets picked on. I thought a guy played really well was Roger McCreary.
Oh yeah,
he's a very good player. The debates going on. And I know we're going to talk about Vrabel next hour and stuff like that, but like, for example, the no players developing under Vrabel thing, which I don't buy, but I think there are some good examples of like Chig this year. Why, what happened to him, things like that. But McCreary is a guy who, now he was pretty good from the start, but there's a guy who I think keeps getting better.
I thought Alshire was really good yesterday. And I know, Carolina doesn't really have much of a running game to speak of. I mean, Hubbard he's okay, but there's not much going from the Carolina running part of this. Like Miles Sanders, I feel bad for Miles Sanders from the standpoint of going from running behind that Philadelphia Eagles offensive line last year to what he's trying to run behind right now has got to be the most dramatic drop off in the history of the National Football League. So good luck to Miles Sanders on that front. He averaged 1.9 yards per carry yesterday. So that kind of shows you what that's like. But, I thought Alshire was flying around all over the place yesterday. It was good to see that, the secondary, like you said, it was clear that they tried to take Thielen out of the game, and they did that. He ended up with 1 catch for 2 yards yesterday. Mingo made a couple of plays down the field, but overall, just it never really felt like the Panthers offensively were threatening all that much in the game yesterday.
No, I mean, even some of their best plays were, I thought, actually pretty ridiculous throws by Bryce Young. But there's just that's the worst offense. Well, it's the worst team, but it's the worst team because it's the worst offense, and it's kind of jarring to see an offense on the field that's just markedly worse than the Titans' offense. You know, I mean, I don't know. Markedly, is that too big a word? I mean, it's really bad. It's really bad. And again, I mean, Thielen's a nice ad, but like, you know, look, they did a lot to get Bryce Young, but this is also a good example of like, that's great, but if you have that little support for your rookie quarterback, one, you're going to create a lot of negativity about him because everybody's going to say after the year Bryce Young's a bust. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. It's going to be very. It reminds me some of Tua, different situation, but you know, a guy who's just in a bad situation early, and it's just like how could that be your skill group? You know, it's just, I mean, the running backs are fine, but like there's just no one who scares you at all. Again, Titans game plan. I said it earlier in the show. The number 2 under 3 points for the defense was stop 19. Stop Adam Thielen. If that's your game plan going into a game, you should feel real good about the offense you're about to face.
Hey, Adam Thielen's had some big games this year, man. Big games.
He has. No, and he's fine. He's a good player. Adam Thielen right now is a heck of a 3 in the NFL.
He is.
And you know, it would be an okay 2.
I agree. Jared from Spring Hill on the text line says, I don't understand y'all's positivity. Some serenity now for you both. How many defensive and offensive penalties? How many first downs given up on defense due to penalties? And how many times can your own quarterback make your offensive line false start? But hey, we won. This is from Jared from Spring Hill on the text line, accusing us of being too rosy about the Titans this morning.
It is a victory Monday, Jared from Spring Hill. My goodness. How could you not be excited?
Don't get me started on the quarterback making the offensive line false start. They know what the snap count is. All they got to do is stay down. Like the false starts, especially, and I tweeted this yesterday, false starts on the offensive line, especially when you're at home and the crowd noise is not working against you, are the most aggravating penalties to me in all of football. I can't stand it. You know what the snap count is. Stay down.
Yeah, Raidens, man, really struggling there. Levis, I saw a tweet about this. He said capitulate down the field. Kaharski was right next to me like, capitulate? What's he talking about? And then but then Levis later, he meant to say matriculate. Joe from Nashville says, my thoughts are with the Nashville media. What a sweet boy.
Yes.
I was willing to give him a pass on it, but you know, and I have no idea if this is probably not what you're talking about later, but I was zoning out. I was so tired by the end of that game. That game absolutely almost melted my brain. And so I was zoning out, and I couldn't hear Gentry's question. He was on the other side of me. He asked about Texas A&M and Mark Stoops. And then I asked Levis about him. And he's like, yeah, just answer that. And then the whole press corps booed me. They all laughed at me.
Well,
I feel shame.
You had a long weekend and you had to watch that game. So you get a pass from me.
Thank you.
I
deserve it.
Michael from Madison says, I'm sick and tired of all these false start penalties. It's killing drives. And while I have a little bit more faith than last year of picking up third medium/longs with D-Hop now in the mix, it's still not very optimal for success. A shinier turd is still a turd. This is from Michael and Madison on the text line. Titans fans bringing the noise on the text line in this segment. Can't even enjoy a victory Monday anymore. Can't enjoy it.
I thought we'd see more anger that they won because, as John Glennon has pointed out, they just went from 6 down to 10 on the draft chart.
They did.
Have not seen that as much yet.
Not much. I'm sure we'll see it through as the week goes along here. Now, having said that, I watched a fair amount yesterday of the Jags and the Texans, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. But I'm watching that saying, all right, well, they got to play the Texans twice. They got the Jags another time. The Colts won again yesterday. Who, by the way, the Colts, I believe, are in a playoff spot right now, which is incredible to kind of think
Wild.
about with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback. So as refreshing as a victory was yesterday, at least in my mind, to talk about, I don't know how many more of those they're gonna see this year. Like, my opinion of this team and what they're gonna finish like does not change a whole lot based on the 17-10 thriller against Carolina yesterday.
No, nor does mine. I mean, I think, who knows this week? I mean, I still don't think the Colts are very good. That, neither of the Bucks. They outscored the Bucks, but the Texans almost pulled that off yesterday. I kind of thought the Jags might kind of thump them, and they didn't. So, yeah, there's a lot of games that I would say the Titans are absolutely at the disadvantage coming up on the schedule.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Lots of conversation surrounding Mike Vrabel over the weekend and his job status here with the Titans. We'll get into all that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. We'll have Corey Curtis from News 2 coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on all things Tennessee Titans, taking your thoughts all show long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. The latest scuttlebutt on Mike Vrabel, Joe Rexrode, and there's a lot to sort through over the course of this past week since we last did our show on Wednesday. So let's start with the Diana Rossini report from The Athletic, which came out, I believe, on Thanksgiving morning. So I'll just read the first couple of graphs from this report from Rossini. It says, quote, frustrated New England Patriot fans can stop hoping that owner Robert Kraft will trade with Tennessee and replace head coach Bill Belichick with his former player Mike Vrabel. It's not happening. Angry Tennessee Titans fans can stop hoping owner Amy Adams Strunk fires Vrabel. It's not happening. Based on multiple conversations with high-ranking Titans officials, the franchise strongly and collectively believes it has the right coach for long-term success. And Rossini goes on to kind of hash out the Vrabel situation, but it makes it seem like the Titans are ready to stick with Vrabel and have Vrabel be their coach for years to come. And then, Joe, we fast forward to a piece that came out yesterday, published by Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal, and I'll read just a little excerpt from that too. Many believe Vrabel was put in the position of being a strong head coach and wanted the hiring of Rand Carthon as general manager. That's incorrect. That was a shotgun marriage by ownership. NFL sources believe the league had a heavy hand in owner Amy Adams Strunk hiring Carthon, a top minority candidate. Vrabel and Carthon had no previous relationship, and it's believed they don't have much of one now. There have been issues with Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days. League sources believe that Vrabel could be looking for a way to force his way out of Tennessee after this season, and the Patriots would be an obvious landing spot, if not the front runner. Could Krafts trade Belichick to the Commanders, Chargers, or Panthers and then secure Vrabel? It's not out of the realm of possibility. So there's a lot there between the Rossini report and what Greg Bedard put out yesterday in the Boston Sports Journal. What do you make of kind of all this swirling noise right now around Mike Vrabel and those two reports with Diana Rossini from The Athletic and Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal?
Well, first of all, I think this is a good, I guess, inside baseball moment. And Big Joe tweeted this and says he was joking. I'm not sure I believe you, Big Joe. Big Joe's tweet was something like, "Oh, report written by Mike Vrabel." Okay, maybe he was joking. I don't know. All Big Joe tweets should be not taken seriously.
Probably a good rule,
right? Like even when he says something like, hey, whatever, like something really heartfelt, I'm just going to take it all as a joke. But I did see some people who jumped to, first of all, I know, is Jared the reason for this? I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering, but like there's this like immediate reaction to Rossini, which is like, oh, Vrabel's your source. And again, I don't know. Okay. I understand how it could look that way at times, whatever. But I mean, is it really just that Jared has just decided to go on his show? He has the thing like from the desk of Mike Vrabel, right? Or whatever. Is he the one who just totally created that as like people just accept it as fact now?
I guess so.
Regardless, let me promise y'all something. Inside baseball, I knew this report was coming. I knew Diana had talked to some important people in the Titans organization. I don't know who. Reporters don't share the sources with each other. Reporters at The Athletic do have to have their sources vetted by editors. And I can promise you, if any of you think that this is like Mike Vrabel saying, hey, make up a report that the Titans don't want to fire me, that's not what happened here. So please don't think that. That's really freaking stupid. That's not the case. Again, I don't know who the sources are, but I think this is pretty clear that the Titans, and maybe this goes to the question Kaharski had for Vrabel, it starts to become a thing. They'd lost 14 to 17 games. He asked him about his job status. This becomes a thing now, right? Maybe that's a reaction to that, to calm this down, get out there, and the Titans want it out there that they're happy with Vrabel and he's not going anywhere, which, again, in my opinion, is smart of them. I know some of you will disagree with me, but it's smart of them. I also now will agree with Jared, and he and I have talked a lot about this since the report Thursday. And I wrote it in my column today. I mean, Amy Adams Strunk put her name on a statement on January 7th, 2018, that Mike Mularkey will be the head coach next year. Will be the head coach moving forward. And 8 days later, another statement came out like, thank you, Mike, for your service. I mean, it was 8 days later. So people say a lot of things in the NFL and in sports and in public life, and then they immediately, it doesn't take long before they're completely contradicted. So it's all, keep it in mind. The Titans, though, want it known that they're happy with Vrabel. They're sticking with Vrabel. They should stick with Vrabel, in my opinion. But that's another thing. Now you have this other thing from Bedard. So here's what I know about Bedard. He started the Boston Sports Journal a few years ago. I'll tell you a little story about Bedard. I had a nice
relation to Connor.
No, I don't think so. This is pretty wild, actually. The night that the Patriots beat the Titans, I dined with Greg Bedard at halftime. They have some very nice lobster roll sandwiches there in Foxborough, and he assured me that Mike Mularkey was about to be fired. So, I was like, okay, well, maybe. And then 2 days later, he was fired. Greg Bedard, I don't know him that well, but that was kind of the first time I'd ever really talked to him. I know he's friend of friend. I mean, the guy's been covered the NFL for a long time. He was with Peter King for a while, that Monday morning quarterback. He's been around the Patriots a long time. He's from the Boston area. He started the Boston Sports Journal. It's a subscription publication, sort of like some other people have done in different cities. Yeah. He has sources, okay? And now I don't know the whole thing about the RAN and all that stuff. I'm a little bit dubious of that, okay? But I'm not dubious of the part about look, this is coming from the Patriots. The Patriots are creating noise about Mike Vrabel. Go back to the Boston Globe. Go back to Ben Volin's report. The Patriots, and I think high-level people for the Patriots, are creating noise about Mike Vrabel.
Yep.
Why? Maybe it's just as simple as they want Vrabel and they're going to come after him. I don't know. But the fact that he wrote this tells me like there's motivation from within the Patriots organization to get this out there. And again, sometimes it's let's look at the last weekend. What happened with Texas A&M? Mark Stoops is gone. He tells people he's gone. They tell people, and they have their own little mini Shano Sunday, and all of a sudden it's like, Mark, actually, never mind. Right? I mean, some of these things are like, see how the public reacts to them. Now, this is kind of an extended version of that, so I don't know if I buy that that's what it is. But the Patriots are making noise. This is not some made-up stuff. This is a legitimate reporter who I think has very high-level sources with the Patriots, and they are making this noise. So that's real in terms of what they might do. Now, Diana wrote, it's not happening about the trade. So now Ben Volin responded to that report and said, now the Titans are trying to drive the price up. So you can interpret this a lot of different ways. But I will tell you that, and again, the RAN stuff, see, if this is coming from the Patriots, do the Patriots really know what they're talking about with the league and RAN and all this stuff? I'm dubious of that aspect of it. I don't know the Vrabel-RAN daily relationship, or if Vrabel's happy with that. Maybe he isn't. I mean, I'm not dismissing that as a possibility. I'm just saying the part about the Bedard report that I'm confident in is that the Patriots are pushing this.
Yes, the wording on some of this is pretty interesting. Just going back to the Volin report of, two sources close to the Patriots. Well, okay, well, who is close to the Patriots? Like, what does that mean? And then you've got this one from Bedard that says league sources believe Vrabel could be looking for a way to force his way out of Tennessee after the season. Well, what does could be mean, right? Like league sources believe that Vrabel could be looking for a way to force his way out of Tennessee after the season. I mean, I found the forcing the way out pretty interesting, but the could be part of it is also pretty interesting to me too. I was like, well, is he or is he not? What does could be mean?
Yeah. No, I know. Now the sort, for sure. It's careful, right? And so, but okay. So I always play these things out in terms of, because I always play these things out in terms of, if you're a reporter, one thing you're trying to do is you're trying to protect people.
Sure.
I mean, it sounds to me like the Patriots are hoping he does. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? So I mean that's so if it's
But isn't
if
that
it's coming,
different than like actual information of Mike Vrabel's trying to force his way out? Like that sounds like wishful thinking.
yeah, sure, yeah, exactly. No, again, I think so. There's a legitimacy here in terms of the Patriots wanting this to happen. Now, Vrabel was just there. Vrabel was just hanging out with the Crafts.
He was.
Vrabel got into the Patriots Hall of Fame, so they had plenty of time together. And I'm sure had conversations. So who knows how that folds into this, but yeah, it is. It's careful and it's, I guess, maybe hopeful. The sourcing, I said it when Bolin's report came out. To me, you say stuff like, I know a buddy of mine, broke a story. I'll just be general. Broke a big story in the NBA, huge trade, and got it from a GM of a team, and then but the way he wrote it, and he worked for the Associated Press, was an NBA source, because
Right.
the source was like, do not say I'm a team source. So close to the Patriots, some of these vague sourcing things to me, like Ben Volin's report in the Boston Globe, that better been from ownership or awfully close, or how do you even write that? So
Right.
then the sourcing, the way he writes it, is to be vague on purpose. I think that's how I view it. Don't know it, but that's how I view it. I do absolutely stand by, if they wrote that story and it was just like friend of a friend at 31 Flavors on a Thursday night, that's atrocious. And I just can't buy that they would do that.
So what do you make of the latest scuttlebutt of Mike Vrabel and his job status here with the Titans? We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode Nick Keys are here with you on this Monday morning. This Friday, Robby and Rexrode will be broadcasting live for the grand opening of a new Dunkin' location in Franklin at 1441 New Highway 96 West. 102.5 The Game will be on site from 6 to 9 a.m. Stop by and have your chance to win lots of great prizes. Looking forward to seeing you out there on Friday at the grand opening of a new Dunkin' location in Franklin at 1441 New Highway 96 West. So, discussing the latest scuttlebutt with Mike Vrabel and his job status, we've got the Rossini report talking about how Vrabel is essentially not going anywhere. And then we've got stuff continuing to flow out of Boston about how Vrabel's trying to force his way out and that the Patriots are going to be an interested party. You know, the Patriots, once again, Mac Jones throwing a couple of picks yesterday. They're atrocious. They lose once again. And it just looks like more than ever that the end of the road is coming here pretty quickly for Bill Belichick. I do wonder, like, have the Patriots, are they settled in on Mike Vrabel or bust? Like, are they going to try to do whatever it takes to pursue Mike Vrabel? Or, which is also pointed out in this piece that we've been discussing from Bedard, you know, they do have an in-house candidate that I think to a lot of people makes a lot of sense in Gerard Mayo. Like how motivated are Robert Kraft and the Patriots ownership if they move on from Belichick? How much of it is Vrabel or bust, or is there kind of a certain limit that they're willing to go to and then look at Gerard Mayo, who's been there, and a lot of people have thought for a long time that he's kind of been the coach in waiting there in New England.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and it's like, you know, like Patriots fans. I know it's not like Robert Kraft is going to have this turn this to a referendum, but if you're a Patriots fan, I think a year ago you'd probably be a lot more excited. Just like a year ago, Ohio State fans, when I wrote that Ohio State should hire Vrabel, they were like, "Yes, please." And now it's like, I mean, I think maybe they just need someone to come in and coach against Michigan in place of Ryan Day on those days, and then he can be the coach all the other days.
Are you going to fire one of those back up again this year? Vrabel to Ohio State?
I retweeted it after the game. Like, how do you feel about this now? Ryan Day, does he ever just absolutely choke when he coaches against Michigan? It's really amazing. Anyway, it's a great question. Like, how much do the Patriots value Vrabel? Is Mayo in their mind? I mean, he's younger, you know.
Yep.
You have more time. Like, obviously, I think, you know, Robert Kraft, is as much as you have to start the list of things they had going for them with Tom Brady, you know, there's also, it's pretty special to have, you know, a guy like Belichick in that job for as long as he was. It's very rare in the NFL, of course. You know, very few organizations have anything close to that. I mean, the Steelers, you know, that organization that's had just incredible continuity since the 70s, but they obviously value that, so that I can see looking at Vrabel as the perfect guy for that. And Vrabel is good. You know, Vrabel's a good coach. I mean, it hasn't changed. I understand all the people upset about how things have gone here, but I don't think the Patriots are just like shooting from the hip here when they're interested in Vrabel. I mean, I think other teams would be as well. But how much are you willing to give up? I mean, they're in a bad spot. And it's also, you look at it from the Vrabel perspective, you know, Bedard writes about forcing his way out, but, you know, he doesn't have the power to do it. He can leave for a college job. He can't leave for. So now granted, if I'm Amy Adams Strunk and I sense that it's not working between Vrabel and Rand, or he's unhappy, then I would be more likely to consider trading him, because, I mean, you don't want that, right? And if you can get assets back, you can go hire another coach. It is possible to hire another good coach. But would Vrabel want the Patriots? It's a tough spot right now. You know, the following Belichick thing, I was talking about this with Gentry yesterday. I get that. It's, you know, following the legend, that's tough. It's gone so poorly for Belichick at the end. I don't know that it would be quite as daunting. But
Belichick's already followed the legend in some ways because he's still there after Brady.
Well, I suppose that's right. Yeah. But I mean, it's a bad spot, you know. It's a bad team. The quarterback situation looks like that, you know, they have to get back into that again. And, you know, now you're thinking long term, you know, you're going to churn rosters. And if it's a long term thing, like then the current personnel situation, the NFL personnel situation can change quickly. It's just it's about the quarterback. Some of it might be Levis too. Like, what does Vrabel think about Levis? I mean, there's just so many aspects to this, but the Mayo thing is interesting. I can't, like, I see this Bedard report and I'm like, they keep pushing this, man. The Patriots are pushing this. They are pushing it, and I believe they are pushing it from very high. And so I have to take it seriously from their perspective.
Yeah, and then it comes down to, like, is what Rossini put out there from the Titans' point of view, regardless of where it's coming from. I mean, Amy Adams Strunk is eventually going to have to be the one that makes the decision. Is she so bought in on Vrabel that it doesn't matter what the Patriots do, that Vrabel is going to be their coach, and that's going to be what it is? And the forcing your way out stuff, which we got a lot of people asking about that, like, how would he force his way out? And I think that would be more like what you're talking about, Joe, of him just not being happy here and eventually forcing your owner to make a decision of, like, do you want that to be around? Like, do you want to have that type of environment here? Or do you want to go ahead and cut your losses and see what you can get from Vrabel from an asset standpoint? But, like, other than that, like, I don't know, like, if you're Amy Adams Strunk and you believe that Vrabel is the right coach for your team, unless you get an offer from the Patriots that's just absurd that you can't turn down. Like, if you think Vrabel is the coach of your team, how much forcing out can Vrabel really do? Like, that's the thing of the NFL. Like, you talked about it. If he was leaving for a college job, that's one thing, but that's why the rules are designed the way they are in the NFL.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the force your way out, I guess, is just sort of make it known to Amy that you're not happy.
Right.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, are you like?
But he's got. But, like, as somebody points out, in text,
leaving your office a mess.
But he's got the power here,
at the security guards.
Right. Like, but we think he's got the power, right? So, like, if there was let's say he didn't like Carthon, and I don't know if that's the case or not, but let's just hypothetically say that. Well, wouldn't Carthon be the one to go there? Like, if you kind of hitched your wagon to Vrabel, if you're the Titans, and Vrabel, after 1 year, didn't like working with Carthon, like, I would think you'd move on from Carthon at that point if you're the Titans, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, in theory, but also that's ridiculous that you hire a GM and then 1 year later you move on. I mean, look, the bottom line is, as much as we've ripped, and it's frustrating, their answers, they would never answer about who has final say, and they talk about collaboration. I mean, if it's not a collaboration, then, like, then it's just not going to work. Like, it's not going to work. I don't think as much as, like, John Lynch, has to ultimately yield to Kyle Shanahan, he still runs personnel there, right? And so I hear what you're saying. Like, if Vrabel's unhappy, you're like, well, I guess we love Vrabel, so I guess we'll fire Rand. But I think that's ridiculous. And then if that's the case, then so you just keep rolling GMs through here until Vrabel's happy. Again, we're all talking about a hypothetical,
right?
That I don't know. I don't see that. I don't see.
I agree with you that it's ridiculous. I'm just saying, like, if push came to shove and Vrabel really was unhappy about that, and you have hitched your wagon to Vrabel, you're siding with Vrabel in that conversation, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, if it's untenable, if it's a situation where and again, like, the whole thing. I mean, we got somebody like LD's like, I hope this is where I hate this report is a little bit, I'd say a little bit irresponsible. The whole, like, the NFL, forced her because, Rand was a minority candidate. I mean, Rand's, to be clear here, I mean, Rand, his career path and everything, that's absolutely on course to be hired as a general manager in the NFL,
Yeah.
Then I hate how it has to always go to this stuff. It has to go to that. But look, I don't know the Vrabel Rand situation, and it has to be good for this to work. So I suppose you're right. If you're like, it's Vrabel or bust, Vrabel all the way, he leads his franchise and he finds it untenable, then I suppose you could move on. But I mean, And you've brought in Rand and a lot of people and a totally different system and the analytics and all this stuff. I mean, he has a heavy and you look at the moves that have been made. I mean, it's very, very much to me, Vrabel, it appears, deferring to him to make these moves. I mean, at least to a large extent, right? I mean, there are clearly a lot of guys that he knew that have come in here, most of whom haven't worked out as well as hope. But, the question there is, like, what is the situation in the building between those two?
Yeah, it's a really weird situation. And to your point, Joe, the Patriots, the more of these reports come out, I'm with you. Like, it just seems like the Patriots are being really aggressive with their approach to Mike Vrabel here. And we'll see whether or not that works. But I mean, that's two legitimate reports that suggest to me that they're at least gonna take a run at Mike Vrabel. And whether or not they're ultimately successful in that, I have no idea. But I'm with you. Like, if you were looking at this situation, if you're a Titans fan, it was just the one report from Ben Volin of the Boston Globe. We talked about it. Like, it makes sense from the Patriots standpoint for there to be interest in Vrabel there. The more that things like this come out, I think you have to take this seriously if you're a Titans fan from at least the Patriots point of view. And ultimately, it's going to be up to Amy Adams Strunk and Vrabel, and maybe he loves it here, and there's nothing to talk about at the end of the day. But I think it's pretty clear the Patriots love him some Mike Vrabel.
Ben from Cumberland City, Ohio State fan, done with Ryan Day. I want Vrabel. There you go. Let's add that to the mix.
Another column coming from The Athletic, which totally derailed Ohio State and the Titans last year. It was you. That's what we come back to.
I know I should stop bringing it up.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, we'll get into what has been a wild weekend of college football so far, both on the field and with some coaching searches around the country. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Teddy's Tavern this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 for our NFL pregame show. They'll break down the Titans' Week 13 matchup against the Colts and give you the latest updates before the game. Our NFL pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Beasts Unleashed. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, live from our 102.5 The Game studio, brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up at 7:45. Corey Curtis from News 2 at 8 o'clock talking all things Tennessee Titans. So looking forward to that. Joe, it's a rivalry weekend in college football. So with that often leads to some great games, which we had a few of those over the weekend, and the beginning of the coaching carousel in college football as well. It looked like for a few hours that Mark Stoops was about to become the next head coach at Texas A&M on Saturday night. There were reports that basically it was all but done, that Stoops was going to leave Kentucky. He was going to be in Texas A&M, and he was going to take over that football program. And then apparently the fan outrage of that decision, and I guess some doubt from some of the boosters and board members and decision makers at Texas A&M, that went down the tubes. And Mark Stoops had this nice tweet, which I got to say, Joe, I just started laughing when I saw the tweet from Stoops about, I won't deny there was some interest and some conversations about some coaching vacancies. But at the end of the day, after that nice win against Louisville, I came to the conclusion that I couldn't leave the University of Kentucky. I just couldn't do it. So I'm staying. It was a great tweet by Mark Stoops. But basically, I like the way you termed it earlier, a mini Shiano Sunday that the Texas A&M fans and board members went through. And Mark Stoops went from being the coach of Texas A&M to not being the coach of Texas A&M. He's staying at Kentucky, and Mike Elko coming in now the head coach at Texas A&M. What a weekend for the Aggies.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm interested in the reaction to, I don't know, but is everybody way more excited about Elko now? But they were mad about Stoops. I mean, Elko has done pretty impressive stuff with Duke, but I would argue that Stoops at Kentucky, I mean, he hasn't been able to get him over the hump, obviously. And, they've had some moments where they had a big opportunity and they just weren't good enough to beat Georgia in the big game. He can't beat Tennessee, which is an indictment, but it's also right. I know. So when it was done, and again, here's more inside baseball. He told people he was leaving.
Yeah.
People reported it. People reported on both sides that it was over, and then people went nuts. And all of a sudden, Texas A&M, it appears, got cold feet. Their AD, if the AD was resolved to do this, and then he was basically shouted down. Well, we saw what happened with John Curry at Tennessee. That's not a good thing for the AD. But are Texas A&M fans excited about Mike Elko? Stoops to Texas A&M would have been, to me, very similar to Dan Mullen going to Florida, which I thought was going to work out. And Dan Mullen, some coaches are more with less coaches, which is what Dan Mullen is for sure. He did tremendous things at Mississippi State, but he could not handle that level. That wasn't him. And I wonder, is Stoops better as a more with less? And certainly the pressure's so low there and all that stuff. How would that have worked out at Texas A&M? But I also wondered the same thing about Elko.
Yeah, like Elko was there, right? So he was there. He was part of that staff a few years ago with Jimbo, and he's gone on to Duke. And look, he's done a good job at Duke. Duke was relevant this year, and Duke is not a relevant football program. They were kind of made a little bit relevant under David Cutcliffe and have fallen off since Cutcliffe has retired. So Elko's done a nice job with Duke. But I'm with you, I don't know, from my standpoint, looking at this from the outside, from a fan base, for you to be so upset with Mark Stoops for that being your hire and to now be excited about Elko. I think Elko could be a good coach. I'm not saying it's a bad hire from Texas A&M, but I don't really understand the difference in outrage from one and excitement about the other. I get that one has been there before, and he's younger, and maybe there's more upward trajectory there. There could be, but the idea that's Stoops was he's a 7-5 coach, or he's an 8-4 coach, and that's all he is at Kentucky. And it's it's Kentucky. Like, what do you
Right.
what do you think they're going to do there?
Yeah. It's very interesting. It is very interesting. And I I haven't read Blake Topmeyer's column, but it was like Texas A&M shows it's more Michigan State than Michigan with the alcohol, which I assume, I know he was pushing like they've got to go get. I mean, there were people talking about Urban, which again would have been a disaster. And good job Michigan State not hiring Urban, by the way. No one should hire Urban, but that like go get a big like Michigan did with getting Harbaugh, for example. So, it's going to be interesting. And meanwhile, Stoops is coming off. That's the thing, is he's coming off winning at Louisville, like just a complete stunner to me that they went in there and won. They go in there and stomp on their logo or whatever, and it's like, oh man, Louisville's going to kick your butt, and they won that game. So Kentucky, but like, I mean, this is a thing. It's like, and I was talking a little bit about this with Kyle Tucker, our Kentucky writer. It's like, it kind of felt like Kentucky fans were also like, you know what? Thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate you. And we'll see you later. And let's see who can take over what he's done here and maybe elevate it. And now it's like, oh, well, all right, you're still our coach. Yay. But at least they did beat Louisville. Like if they got beat by 3 touchdowns and then this all happened, might be even a little bit different.
And then there's the Jeff Lebby part of this. He gets hired from Oklahoma to Mississippi State. Now they head coach of Mississippi State. They showed up last night at the Starkville airport, Joe. Lebby came in on the airplane, and they started like all the cowbells were out there. They put him on like people's shoulders and carried him into the airport. God bless college football. College football coaching hires are my favorite thing on the earth. I love it.
It wasn't that long ago that Mike Leach, rest in peace, came in there and he was like, what's this cowbell?
What is this thing?
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know about the Lebby thing. I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I mean, here's another school in the SEC that will have Tennessee's offense, Ole Miss's offense, the Baylor Art Brow's offense. And I think a place like Mississippi State, it makes sense to do that. A lot of times the OC guy doesn't work out as a head coach, but we'll see.
I'm interested to see how that goes there. And now, like, if you're Kentucky, going back to the Stoops part of this, like, obviously they're going to take him back, and he's done a great job there. But I do wonder, like, if, there's been all these rumors for years about, could Stoops go take another job? Could Stoops go take another job? And he never has. And it looks like he was absolutely ready to do it now. Like, I wonder, like, does he see the writing on the wall a little bit with the fan base? Because up until the Louisville game, I will say, a lot of noise about, Kyle Tucker was talking about it. It kind of, Kyle Tucker said he had a article halfway written about how it was the right time for Stoops and the right time for Kentucky to kind of move on. And he had to
He should tweet out the column.
He should. I agree. But, like, I do wonder, like, where this goes from here with Stoops in Kentucky now that fell through.
Well, yeah, I think it's clear that and it's interesting because I agree with people who say, look, this guy has a great situation. He makes $9 million a year, and you win 8 games and people are happy and all that stuff. And I agree, but I also get, if you're him, like, okay, I would like to go to a place where, yes, the pressure's higher, but also I actually have a chance to win a national championship, right? I think this makes it clear that he's looking around. And so I think we'll see. Does he get that's an opportunity. As much as Texas A&M never gets it done, always underachieves, like, they do have all the elements you need to try to do it, right? How many more opportunities like that is Mark Stoops going to get? I don't know, but I think it's pretty obvious he's looking.
You think Ryan Day is safe?
I mean, probably. Now they're also going through a transition at AD, which is interesting. Yeah, it's just, it's really a unique situation because he is a heck of a coach. I mean, look at what they did against Georgia last year. I think he could be a good NFL head coach. I think he's a great offensive mind, and he chokes in that game. Like at the beginning of the game, 4th and 1 at midfield, you turtled and told your team I was like right there, like, yeah, they're losing. He did not go 4th and 1. You don't think you can get a yard in this game, this Rever game you've been frothing at the mouth to get to for a year, and you're going to punt at midfield on 4th and 1? That said everything I needed to know, and it's exactly what happened. So 3 in a row. I mean, Ohio State had won like whatever, 15 out of 16 or whatever it had been. They completely dominated that rivalry. You have to give credit to Michigan, Connor Stallions aside.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's an excellent team. But man, he blew it. Now I will say this about that game though. Michigan has a much better quarterback. I mean, Ohio State has probably a better team top to bottom. Their quarterback also, like his head coach, came up real small in a big moment. And Michigan's quarterback is really good. They're just better at quarterback, but I just can't imagine them fire. I don't know, man. A year ago, I said if they go get thumped up there, I think they might move on from him because 3 straight is not acceptable. What is he otherwise? Like 56-6 in all his other games.
Yeah,
it's a really, really interesting. I think to me, it's almost like you don't just fire him unless you think you do have someone better. Mike Vrabel coming in.
I was just glad to see Michigan get through the post game part of the interviews without crying this time. That was good to see. No tears from Michigan this time around.
Pictures of Harbaugh. Fuck. He was watching it out back.
Coming up next, it's time for the Rob Rant. I have a Rob Rant directed at Joe Rexrode and his cronies. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Why are you holding your hands like that?
I'm trying to get a question in here.
Well, then ask the question. No, I'm just saying, like, you look ridiculous.
Are you going to listen to me, or are you going to listen to these guys?
I'm not your friend, guy.
It is that time of the day, time for the Rob Rant here on Robby and Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45. And I, much like Mike Vrabel, have a problem with Joe Rexrode and Joe Rexrode's cronies in the college football world. So, Joe, this is going to lead us back into an old discussion, but that's fine. I'm cool with it. So I'm sitting here this weekend, and I'm looking around. I'm like, you know what? I love me some rivalry weekend. You know, the college football landscape's getting ready to change. They were talking about it on the Tennessee Vanderbilt broadcast of the divisions going away and the last SEC matchup, and there's a lot of change coming up with college football. And I'm looking around and I'm saying, you know what? Just let's think about how things have played out this year in the world of college football. And let's fast forward to a year from now when the introduction of this stupid 12-team playoff is coming into fold here. And think about conference championship weekend. So let's just look at it real quick. You got a Pac-12 title game coming up on Friday night, which, by the way, very much looking forward to that one. Oregon and Washington, going to be a great game. An 11-1 Oregon team, a 12-0 Washington team with a spot in the college football playoff on the line. And with a 12-team playoff, who cares? They're both getting in. Who gives a crap who wins the game on Friday? They're both getting in. You got a matchup in the SEC championship game between Georgia and Alabama. Alabama with an opportunity to win the game and throw a little chaos into the fold. Next year, who cares? They're both getting in. They're both getting into the college football playoff. The game's meaningless. You got Florida State, who is undefeated, taking on Louisville in the ACC title game, which they should destroy Louisville, but we'll see what happens on that front. They got their quarterback hurt. They're undefeated. Right now, I think they're going to get left out undefeated, but they've at least got a chance to get in there. If it's a year from now, who cares? They're automatically in. Michigan, Ohio State, it's a great game, the game this past weekend. Who cares if Ohio State loses next year? They're automatically in the college football playoff. So I know we can go round and round on this, and you can find examples of college football playoff games that will probably be good between, you know, a 6 seed and an 11 seed or whatever the case may end up being next year. But college football this weekend is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. There are basically win and in college football playoff games on conference championship weekend this week that otherwise next year will be rendered basically meaningless. And that's what we're going to see a year from now when the college football playoff expands to 12 teams. And I hate it. And I blame Joe Rexrode and his cronies for loving it.
Now, you know, Louisville, for example, next year they're playing for the playoff. This year they're done. It's just like, whatever.
They just lost to Kentucky. They should be done.
Well, I'm just saying, like they would be one of those teams. And I would even, I'm not sure, but like even like Alabama and Texas this weekend in the 12 team, you better win, you know, whereas, you know, like
they'd both be in.
Well, I'd have to look at everything right behind them, but like the one loss team around 10, you know, 1-2 around 10. I mean that, you know, that's those are teams that would you know, it would be, the stakes would be high. I mean, look, of course, you change to this, and some things that were the stakes were high are now lower, but also as I mean, I just went on this rant 2 weeks ago. There's all these games where or would mean nothing and the stakes would be higher, right? I mean, like you said, we can go around and around on it. I can't wait for the 12 team. I mean, you know, you think about whatever I've been seeing every week, people have been tweeting out like what the bracket would look like, you know, and it's like, man, like there are some really good. I have to find one of those brackets and throw the matchups at you, because I know the matchups are a little different, you know, obviously because conference championships, you know, factor into that, right?
Right.
But there are some sweet games. And, you know,
we've got some college football playoff games this weekend. That's what I keep trying to tell everybody. It's already there.
You know what I say get rid of the conference championship games. You know, that's then, you know, I mean, you just have your conference championships and you get to the playoff. I mean, think of what you're asking people to do. You know, these money grab conference championship games, you know, I mean, it's just, especially you take away divisions and these championship games are going to be like, I mean, you're going to have like a 4-way tie for second in some league.
Yeah.
And it will still be better than like the Big Ten forcing us to watch freaking Iowa play. Okay. On Saturday. But, you know, you're going to have these 4-way ties for second. It's going to come down to some stupid tiebreaker. The schedules are totally imbalanced in these leagues. They're way too big. To me, I'd get rid of the conference championship games. But also, Robbie, why isn't winning a conference championship enough? Why Michigan, Ohio State? Yes, they would both be in next year, but you're playing for the Big Ten. Why don't we care about conference championships?
No,
Isn't
we
that
don't.
enough on its own?
It is
okay.
not.
Well, then let's just get rid of conferences and just pick the best 12. That's fine.
Look, I care about conference championships. I'm just saying, like, the discussion at large, nobody does anymore. So it just changes things.
Which is why we had to move on from the 14. Yes, I agree. So we agree. Good.
Yes, thank you. Do you think if Florida State wins against Louisville, they're going to be 13-0? You think a 13-0 Florida State team gets left out of the college football playoff?
I don't. I could be wrong, but I don't. I think they'd be in. I think they'd be in as the 4 probably. The big scenarios this week, obviously, like if Alabama wins, boy. But does that make Sunday just fascinating, right?
Let me throw another one at you. What if Oregon wins, Alabama wins? So you have 11-1, or you'd have 12-1 Oregon, 12-1 Washington, 12-1 Alabama, 12-1 Georgia, and oh, by the way, Ohio State's sitting there with 1 loss too.
Yeah, they're out. But yes, no, it's that's a hell of a scenario. I'll tell you this:
Texas too, by the way, 12-1.
Yeah, and they won at Alabama.
Yep.
I'll tell you this: I believe the clear best 2 teams. I know Georgia mess around with Georgia Tech, but I believe the clear best 2 teams are Georgia and Oregon. And I think Oregon might win this whole freaking thing. If Oregon does what I think it might do to Washington in this game, this could be a hell of a full circle moment with Dan Lanning. Remember last year, Bo Nix, Dan Lanning, 49-3 to Georgia. Yep. I think Oregon, Georgia is destined to be the national championship game. To me, again, some of this is like you have to watch the team play. I mean, they lost 1 close game at Washington in probable circumstances. Great job by Michael Penix and all that stuff. But they thump Washington, they have to be in. That's, to me, non-negotiable if you're looking at the quality of the team. They are a national championship-worthy team, as is Georgia. But, yeah, to your point on that scenario, I mean, Washington's out. But, yes, if Alabama wins – dude, if Alabama beats Georgia, what the heck do you do with that?
Does Georgia get left out?
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
I mean, what would Georgia's best win be? Missouri?
Yeah, a close win at home against Missouri. I mean, they trashed Tennessee on the road. Yeah. But right now, now the AP is one thing, but, that is not even a ranked win if Tennessee falls out. Now, I don't know why Tennessee would fall out. They fell out of the AP, which doesn't matter.
They're not going to fall out of college football.
I don't think they're going to follow the college football, but yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing is they haven't played a great schedule. I mean, frankly, I could get behind, or if Oregon and Washington play a great game and Oregon wins, I could get behind both of them getting in, but they won't both get in.
Oregon's nearly a 10-point favorite in this game. That's kind of surprising to me. 10 points?
But they are so much better at this point. I mean, just watching both of them, I've been able to watch a fair amount of Pac-12 after dark too. That team they've got the guys on D too. And Bo Nix is like, he is a top 10 pick. Bo Nix. It's incredible.
Well, I just want everybody to know, as you're enjoying all these conference championship / college football playoff play-in games this weekend, just know that next year, none of it will matter. Thanks to Joe Rexrode and his cronies.
Bring on the 12 team, baby. Cannot wait. Yes.
Coming up next, we'll be joined by Corey Curtis from News 2. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans and their dramatic win against the mighty Carolina Panthers yesterday. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. And as we do every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Well, it's a Bears game day. Could I be any better? Holy cow.
Well, what a matchup we're looking at tonight. How excited are you?
All I have to say to the rest of America is you're welcome.
Yes, thank you. It's going to be just beautiful. The more we can get the Bears on primetime, I think the better off we'll all be. Looking forward to that with the night. Coming up on Monday Night Football. Corey, what did you make of that one yesterday? Speaking of games that should have been on primetime, the Titans and the Carolina Panthers, a 17-10 win for the Titans. It's amazing, Corey, when you play against the Panthers, the offensive line can block a little better, and that front four generated some pressure on the pass rush.
Well, look, it's the game we all expected to see, I believe. I mean, it was not a thing of beauty. You know, look, the Panthers' defense isn't terrible, okay? I mean, when you look at they were, I think, 6th or 7th in the league in yards allowed coming into this thing. You know, the offense has just been brutal, and they don't generate turnovers, which is a problem that, you know, we're familiar with here. And you know, those are some of the issues. So, you know, I thought from a Jalen Duncan standpoint, it was promising. I thought from a red zone standpoint, that they were able to run the football in, you know, was promising. But, you know, that's a team that's been bad defensively in the red zone, and that's, I continue to say, you know, the Titans' number one problem is inconsistency in the run game. If they can start to generate some consistency in the run game, you know, they're going to be able to have better red zone numbers and run more plays. Blah 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 blah. So look, I think Jalen Duncan has a pulse, which puts him ahead of what else they've been doing at left tackle, and kind of makes me wonder what took so long. But you know, so that's a step forward. Is everything fixed? No. But they won a game, and they needed to win a game. And you move forward, and they're 4-0 at home. I don't think that's nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the Duncan, what took so long. And I hear you. We were talking about this earlier. I mean, I think back to like camp, and he looked about as raw and not ready as everyone thought he might be, right? I mean, you could, I guess it's how you want to spin that. You could look at this and say, well, gee, player development, offensive line coach, here's a guy who a few months ago looked incapable, and now it looks like he's taken to coaching and has gotten better. But I know, you know, of course, that's a natural thing to think when things have been such a struggle. What about Levis yesterday? It's a weekly thing, Corey. You know, how you know, how's his progress? I thought he was pretty good. He missed a few throws, but I thought circumstances are never going to be great this year, but I thought he was pretty good. What'd you think of him?
Yeah, you know, I thought he was decent. I thought, you know, there was the big one over the middle that he missed to Hopkins that was a little bit behind him. I thought Hopkins could have made a stronger effort towards the ball, but it wasn't a good throw. The throw to NWI just before halftime was really good. I mean, that was a 3-point throw, and that was you know, low over the middle, you know, tight window. That was really good. And please feel free to shoot me down on this, guys. But I watched the game, and I'm like, look, either the kid's good enough to play or he isn't. And I feel like they just put the handcuffs on him sometimes. You know, when you run 30 pass plays and 14 of them are screens, they're going to be on to you. And the league is on to the Titans that they want to run screens. I mean, hell, they ran back-to-back screen passes for nothing. And, you know, it's like, what? Did they just want to prove it didn't work? I mean, come on. You know, and he had decent protection yesterday. And is he going to turn the ball over? Yeah, probably. But you know what? That's part of the development. That's all part of it. And I would have liked to have seen them let him play a little more in certain situations where I felt like they got really conservative with the screen action. You know, because even if he doesn't complete the pass, you know, the Titans have proven defenses can get called for penalties. I mean, good Lord, they've proven that, especially on third down. And you know, you're not putting the pressure on defenses when you're calling that many screens. And by the way, the Frank Reich screen to end the game was as gutless of a call as I've ever seen.
Just brutal.
Awful.
No question about that. Corey Curtis from News 2 with us on Robby and Rexrode. So, Corey, what do you make of all the noise around Vrabel right now?
Yeah.
Diana Rossini came out on Thanksgiving Day and basically had a report that says he's not going anywhere at The Athletic. The Boston Sports Journal came out yesterday. Greg Bedard, who's covered the Patriots and the NFL for a while, came out with a report that basically said that Vrabel, according to some league sources, could be trying to force his way out of Tennessee after this season. So what do you make of all the noise around Vrabel and his job status with the Titans right now?
Well, I don't know how you force your way out of a job unless you're just saying, I'm going to do as terrible of a job as possible. Get rid of me. I mean, how do you force your way out? I don't know how he manages to do that.
Steal people's lunches out of the fridge and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, by the way, how many coaches are standing up to take over that team right now? And I know it's one of 32, but, for everybody who thinks, the Titans are a bad situation, you think the Patriots would kill for Jeffrey Simmons and Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins right now? I mean, because they don't have that. They don't have Will Levis right now. I mean, they rolled Bailey Zappi out there yesterday. I mean, now, look, they're in position to pick high, and maybe that's attractive. But that is not a good team. It is good ownership. It is a good organization. But it's that ship has been run into an iceberg, okay? They've been getting bad for years, and now they're just really bad. I know, Joe, that, Diana's a colleague, but we also know that she's heavily tied into Mike Vrabel. They've got the same agency. And so, I think a lot of the information, does come from there. I'm not saying that there aren't other sources, but I think that that's a big source. I think for the Titans, it makes even if you're willing to trade Vrabel, you absolutely are going to put out the info that you're not, because you want the price for him to be as high as possible. It doesn't do you any good to say, he might be available for the right price. You just look, everybody has a price. There's nobody's irreplaceable. We have seen Peyton Manning became a Denver Bronco. Okay, everybody is replaceable. Everybody has a price. John Gruden went for like 2 2s and 2 1s and $8 trillion. So the Titans absolutely have a price for Mike Vrabel, no matter what they say. So I think that there's a lot of posturing, going on right now, and they may have no intention of trading him. But I'm saying if the Patriots want him enough and they come with a strong enough offer, he'll be the Patriots head coach. I mean, that's just life. That's just the way it is. So it's just interesting because I think right now it's a lot of posturing from people and from organizations to say, to kind of put their cards on the table to say, if you want him, you're going to have to really pay through the nose to get him, because we're not just going to give him away.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's, it's easy to look at this and just on both sides. Maybe it's almost like, it's like publicly, hand fighting over this, and the Titans. It makes sense to let people know that they're happy with Vrabel. I will say, I said earlier in the show, but since you brought it up, I mean, Diana Rossini would not be allowed by my editors to write a fake story that Vrabel said, "Hey, tell them that they like me." I mean, that's not what happened.
Agree with you. Yes, I completely agree with you. I will say, she's heavily tied into the head coach, and I just think that we always have to keep that in mind. Is all I point out.
Oh, I thought Joe had a question, but I guess not.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just dropped the mic. That's all.
You did. Corey, last thing for you here. You got the Jags and the Texans yesterday, a wild game that comes down to a field goal. By the way, I believe right now the Jags are, at least as of the game yesterday, so I guess with the Chiefs winning that they wouldn't be anymore. But Jags right there on the doorstep of the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is hard to believe. But do you feel like the Jags essentially won the division yesterday? Can Houston get back into it? How do you view that matchup?
Well, look, it's never over. Last year the Titans were 7-3 and had to win 1 game to win the division. Now the Jags don't have the injuries that the Titans have, but they're an injury away from being in big trouble. I mean, the quarterback could fall out of the shower today and be done for the year, and then all of a sudden winning the division is very difficult. But, it goes to show who is the old Toronto GM? Like, well, you pick him top 5 long enough, you should be good. But, you pick high long enough, you should have good players. And when you actually have an adult running the team, coaching, you can be good. And then, the Texans I've mocked for years because ever since Mr. McNair passed away and his son ran the team, he has run it into the ground. Well, they no longer have the team pastor running the organization, and it's a miracle that they've gotten better. And also it goes to show you when you look at both teams, the value of the quarterback position. When you get that position right, it cures a lot of ails and it covers a lot of warts. And, speaking of that, watching the Panthers yesterday, I have no idea in my heart, in my soul, in my brain, in the fabric of my being, how you can have a 5'9", 150-pound kid walk into your building and you want to pick him, you want to trade up to one to take him over C.J. Stroud. He was a great college player.
Oh, you're gonna get Joe mad.
There's no question about that. He was a great college player, fantastic college player to watch. This is not college. It is not college. That guy is tiny. Tiny. I can't believe he finished the game yesterday. And you could have taken C.J. Stroud. Just take the look at the two of them side by side.
Get him, Joe.
I mean, put Drew Brees in his prime, tiny Drew Brees on that freaking team, and he sucks. Like, the Titans' game plan was stop Adam Thielen. That was one of their three key points. Let's stop number 19, the number 3 receiver in the NFL.
No one has stopped Adam Thielen this year. He's having a monster year.
He's a good number, right? Because he's the only guy they can throw to.
Suddenly, he was hamstrung by Adam Thielen, who had like 700-plus yards coming into the game. Look, I'm not saying
the point is he's their best offensive weapon. Like, that's all they've got. This is
not as good as C.J. Stroud, Joe. He's not as good as C.J. Stroud. Okay. All right, 10 years from now, when we're analyzing both of these players, what are we going to be saying? Which one's going to be better?
Well, I'll stick with my pre-draft analysis. I think Bryce Young is the best quarterback of all these guys. However, and I may be wrong, and I've been wrong plenty of times before, but this rushing to judgment of what we've seen this year is a mistake. He has the worst situation of any quarterback in this league by far. Stroud has a good situation, and Stroud's been great. Don't get me wrong. He has a good situation. Bryce Young has an atrocious situation.
Into the season, who said Nico Collins and Tank Dell is a great situation?
Well, I don't care what going into the season. They blocked for him. He has 2 good backs, and he has 4 good receivers.
The team around him.
Oh, okay.
He's elevated the team around him. Because why? Because he's a really good player.
Who's better in 10 years, C.J. Stroud or Tyson Bagent?
Well, the Division II quarterback did beat the Heisman winner, and I'm pretty sure he could beat him in arm wrestling.
He did. Corey, great stuff as always. Enjoy some Monday Night Football between the Bears and the Vikings tonight. You might be one of 8 people watching. I wish you a lot of success tonight.
Well, I appreciate it, and congratulations on the curse of the waxing gibbous, taking down the Lions with your Packers on Thanksgiving. 0-13 during a waxing gibbous now. There are some things you just can't overcome in the world, and the phase of the moon is definitely one of them.
Apparently so. Corey, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
Corey Curtis from News 2, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. He went directly after you there. I liked it. Directly after you.
Yeah, look, man, C.J. Stroud's been great. I have nothing bad to say. It's promising. He looks like he's going to be really – dude, you can't judge Bryce Young. Yeah, he's small. We already knew he was small. He has the worst freaking team around a quarterback I've ever – this is like – it's worse than like some of the crap the Lions have put around quarterbacks in the past, and that is saying something. It's by
the way,
that's fine. We will survive. We will prevail, Bryce. You and I, buddy.
How about the Fox broadcast not having a turkey leg ready for Jordan Love after the game on Thursday? What are we doing? Is this Thanksgiving or not?
I missed that. I feel bad. I thought they were talking about the turducken.
They didn't have it. Wasn't ready for it.
Oh, that's weak.
Very weak. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll react to what Corey Curtis had to say there. Get back into the Titans coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Preds fans, don't miss this Wednesday night Smashville live show at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs at 6 p.m. See your Predators star players up close and personal. Get autographs and pictures. This week's special guests are Tyson Berry and Ryan O'Reilly. Smashville Live brought to you by the Black Abbey Brewing Company. That coming up on Wednesday night at Smashville Live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. The Titans win 17-10 yesterday against the Carolina Panthers. A wondrous sight for all of us football fans to behold at Nissan Stadium yesterday. Will Levis on the day goes 18 of 28, 185 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 83.2 yesterday. Joe, overall, when you evaluate Levis's performance, the protection that he got, the offensive output, all of those things, what did you make of the way that Will Levis played yesterday for the Titans in his second career victory as starting quarterback?
Now, obviously, Levis has not had, the euphoric. Obviously, that debut was just so explosive, the huge plays all over the field. And since then, it's kind of been some ups and downs, but I think a pretty steady, overall to me, impressive, positive, encouraging operation. decision making for the most part. Here and there, here and there you can call it a rookie decision, but then again, freaking Brett Favre was making decisions like that in years he won the MVP. That happens. But I thought he missed a couple throws that were a little bit surprising, which he spoke to after the game. But I feel like he's got a good handle on things, and he's definitely courageous, even though the numbers say 1 sack, 4 hits. And I do think the Titans gave him some decent pockets. He's often standing in there amid a lot of chaos, very muddy pockets, and he stands in and he throws the ball. So I thought it was another step for him. It's like, get to the end of the year, play like this. Obviously, you hope for some more big plays. Maybe he turned down a couple opportunities for that yesterday. But you get through this year and keep him in one piece, and he gets these snaps banked and everything. That's a good thing for his future and the Titans' future.
Yeah, I thought he looked good for the most part. I mean, he had a couple of drives in the second half yesterday that he missed some throws on. And I will say, it is concerning / disappointing that you score 17 points in the first half and then you get shut out by the Carolina Panthers in the second half. So obviously, they did not do well enough in the second half offensively. But overall, I still think Levis is playing pretty well for the most part. And we went through like the operation part of it earlier. Like, I think a lot of that has been really impressive. So that's been good to see. Jalen Duncan getting in there at left tackle yesterday as well, Joe. And I realize the options are limited at this point, and they played against the Carolina Panthers, but I thought Duncan held up okay yesterday. What did you make of the way that the Titans' new left tackle played in his first start yesterday?
Yeah, he got beat a few times, pretty noticeably. Brian Burns will beat a lot of people, but it seemed to me I do not have the Pro Football Focus pinpoint grading system, available.
We got to be getting close to a John Glennon tweet about that, right?
Has he not tweeted the PFF grade yet? That's crazy. I thought overall it was pretty encouraging there too. I mean, I did kind of go out of my way to watch him a decent amount of the day from the press box, and he's gotten better. There's no doubt about that. He's gotten better. Looked like he embraced the opportunity. Look, he's got the measurables, athleticism, and all that stuff. He was a very kind of a raw prospect. Need a lot of work on technique. That was the book on him coming out, and maybe you don't want to go overboard with what it could mean if he plays well, but maybe he is a guy who could be like a good swing tackle for you down the road. I think that would be a great development for the Titans to be able to have that, to have someone like that who's young, cheap, and competent, that you can rotate in.
You want to know the two highest snap percentages offensively from wide receivers yesterday? Nick Westbrook-Akine, Chris Moore.
Oh.
Move aside, DeAndre Hopkins. It's the NWI and Chris Moore show moving forward.
That's interesting. You certainly notice Chris Moore a lot more out there, and they worked him in some different situations. So it's kind of like Chris Moore, I guess, is sort of taking on the Burks role, until and unless Burks comes back. But of course, NWI. I mean, that's going to be number one.
Hopkins with 57% of the offensive snaps. NWI was at 75%. Chris Moore at 66%. By the way, Wesco at 64%. So Wesco playing more snaps than DeAndre Hopkins. That's good.
That is interesting. That is definitely interesting. I can tell you, though, on that throwback screen of Derrick Henry, Wesco messed something up, and Derrick Henry let him know all about it.
Derrick Henry was a little boisterous yesterday. He was yelling at Wesco. He was yelling at the Panthers sideline after the hit on Tajay Spears. Not very happy from Derrick Henry yesterday.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly giddy after the game either, even though they won. So, but of course, Derrick Henry now the 39th player to get 9,000 yards. Yeah, and he's also number 17 in NFL, the number 17 overall on the rushing touchdowns list with 84. And also, he's one of 8 guys to get to 80 and 9,000 before age 30. And the other 7 guys are 7 of the best backs in the history of the NFL, including Barry Sanders and Jim Brown, all of them Hall of Famers. So there you go.
615-737-1025 our phone number. We'll get back into the Mike Vrabel scuttlebutt coming up next. Lots of interesting reports over the weekend about him. We'll take your thoughts on that. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game, live from our 1025 The Game studio, brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Got some tickets to give away to see Brian Regan at Ryman Auditorium coming up on June 19th. Be caller number 5, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Caller number 5 will win a pair of tickets to see Brian Regan at Ryman Auditorium coming up on June 19th, 615-737-1025. 1025. So, Joe, we laid out the scuttlebutt around Mike Vrabel over the weekend a little bit earlier. Diana Rossini from The Athletic reporting basically that Mike Vrabel not going anywhere, that if you're a Patriots fan and you want to be trading for Vrabel, forget about it. It's not happening. And if you're a frustrated Titans fan and you want A.B. Adams Strunk to fire Mike Vrabel, that's not happening. That was from The Athletic on Thursday, Thanksgiving mornings when that came out. And then we discussed yesterday another report coming out of Boston relating to Mike Vrabel as it relates to his job status from the Boston Sports Journal, essentially saying that Vrabel could be trying to force his way out of the Titans at the end of this year and that New England could be an obvious landing spot if that happens. So, Joe, as you factor all the different information that's out there, piece all of these different things together, how do you view the current landscape of Vrabel, his job status, where that stands, and where this could be heading after the season, especially from the New England point of view and their pursuit of Vrabel? First meet of the day for Rexrode.
Gosh, darn it. Mention it. I haven't been doing that much lately, by the way.
You haven't.
Corey Curtis said a few things that ticked me off, but especially the Bryce Young slander. My goodness. No, but Corey, I asked the question on the show earlier, like, I know that Jared has the thing where it's like straight from the desk of Mike Vrabel, whatever, about Rossini. I'm trying to remember, like, everybody says that. Like, we all know Rossini's connected. Like, someone said this to me on Twitter the other day. I'm like, well, wouldn't you say that about anybody who covers the Titans? We all talk to Vrabel. Are we all connected to Vrabel too? I'm just saying.
He's a friend of the show.
That is true. He very much enjoyed his time on this program with us. I'm just saying, like, it's become this all, like, everyone accepts it as a thing. And I'm trying to, I know draft night, certainly, what went down draft night. But I don't really, and maybe I'm just not remembering everything other than Jared just saying the same thing over and over and people eventually taking it as fact. But regardless, like I said to Corey, and he agreed, but I promise you that Diana Rossini is not writing a report, or anyone at the Athletics not writing a report about what an organization feels about a coach, and it's actually from the coach. That would be fireable, actually. Yep. Also would not be published. So the Titans felt compelled to, and I'm not going to sit here and source guess, but the Titans on high felt compelled to say that they don't want Vrabel to go anywhere. Now, you can interpret that however you want, and I'm with Corey. Ben Volin immediately tweeted, so the Titans want to make sure that the Patriots know they don't have any interest, so let's drive that price up. It could be. I don't know. It could just be that they just are absolutely committed to Vrabel, which is not a crazy idea, guys. I know that it's been bad with this football team on the field, but it's kind of what the choice was when Amy Adams-Strunk fired John Robinson, and right? I mean, that's kind of what she was saying with that. Meanwhile, you have the noise coming from the Patriots, and it won't stop. And the Greg Bedard thing should be taken. I take seriously part of that report. I read the stuff in there about Rand Carthon, and I just look. I don't know who his sources are, obviously, but that feels like speculating from afar. But he has been around the Patriots for a long time. I have a little bit of an idea of maybe where he gets his information from. And it's, Greg Bedard, when he says something about what the Patriots think, people take it seriously. He's been doing it for a long time. He worked with Peter King at MMQB. And this is the Patriots, to me, continuing to rattle the cage here and make the noise about trying to get Mike Vrabel. Why? I mean, I guess you could look at it like there's two sides sort of, going back and forth publicly in an unnamed way. You could look at it that way, but you don't just dismiss the Bedard thing in terms of Patriots' interest. Now, he quoted a source saying, there's a thought that Vrabel could be trying to force his way out. Like Corey said, what does that mean? What does that look like? I don't know. But it seems pretty clear that the Patriots have some interest in Mike Vrabel.
It seems pretty clear that they do. And that leads me to a couple of questions. How deep does that interest go? And what I mean by that is how far are they willing to go to try to get him, right? Like, is 2 first-round picks like the point of no return? They're not going any higher than that. Like, how far would New England be willing to push this if they actually wanted Mike Vrabel? And if you're Amy Adams-Strunk and you believe that Vrabel is your head coach and he's the right guy for the job, what is the price that stops you to cause and maybe reconsider that? Like, is there a price? Because I do agree with Corey from this perspective. Like, everybody's got a price. Everybody's got a price in professional sports. What is that price for Amy Adams-Strunk and the Titans, where they would say, you know what, we like Mike Vrabel a lot. We think he's a really good coach, and we think he could be a good coach here for a long time. But I mean, the Patriots are offering us 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, and we can't turn that down. Like, what's that price look like for Amy Adams-Strunk and the Titans?
Yeah, it's a great question. And if I'm Amy Adams-Strunk, I mean, I'd listen.
For sure.
I'd take the call. I would let Vrabel forward the call. From when they call the main board there.
I just send it on over. I got to take this call.
Don't listen in now.
I'm going to make sure that phone's hung up before I start talking, Mike, so you just might as well go on and do it.
I didn't hear a click. We're both doing terrible Texas accents. Dennis said, if Vrabel's truly the one calling the shots, can he walk in and say, guys, I just traded myself in our first of the Patriots for Bailey Zappi? It's funny. Yeah, Yeah, and then Mike Vrabel disappears forever. They never find the body.
Just beautiful. I mean, it is fascinating. I'll be honest, when the first Boston Globe report came out, I thought, okay, well, the Patriots look like they've got some interest in Mike Vrabel. I mean, okay, I mean, it's not easy. It's not hard to draw a connection there between his playing days and his relationship with the Crafts and all those things. So, but like, how deep is the interest really? Like, people have been talking about Gerard Mayo taking over for Bill Belichick eventually for like 10 years. I mean, he's been there for a long time. So I just kind of brushed it aside and was like, okay, well, that's interesting. We'll see what happens. Now this one comes out too from the Boston Sports Journal. And it's to your point, it's pretty clear that the Patriots are trying to get this riled up a little bit. And how far are they willing to go with it? I don't know. Like, is it a pursue Mike Vrabel at all costs type of thing? I'm not sure. If so, I mean, it's good news for the Titans. You're either keeping a coach that you love or you're getting significant draft capital, one would assume, in return for it. But the more that comes out about this, Joe, the more convinced I am that I think the Patriots are going to try to take a run at Vrabel at the end of this year. And I don't know if it's going to work or not. I don't know if they're going to land him or not, but it feels like they're absolutely preparing themselves to take a run at Vrabel.
I mean, if you want to look at this in terms of like sort of a negotiation through media, which does happen, again, the Titans wanted it out there that they are happy with Vrabel and they're sticking with Vrabel. Okay. So hands off. Also, again, you could look at it and say, you better come with a real price. I don't come with any weak stuff, crap. So now this report comes out, I believe from the Patriots. I believe absolutely from a high source of the Patriots, not someone who's, running equipment for the Patriots. And it speaks to the idea of dissension here, right? Of Vrabel not being happy here, all this stuff. Okay, so you look at it in terms of a negotiation. So is the hope that then that puts doubt in Amy's head about the stability of the relationship, and that you really have to think about what would be best. Maybe it would be best if a divorce came. I'm just speculating, like, what's the benefit of doing this if you're the Patriots? Because clearly they think there's a benefit in doing this, and to me, is either ownership, child of ownership. I mean, it has to be something like that. If not, you don't write these reports.
Well, and it's such a disaster. Corey was going through like what makes the Patriots attractive earlier, and I will say, like, I'm with him on, like, the roster's not good, and they obviously have a problem at quarterback. It's pretty clear that they're going to be bad enough to pick in pretty high in the draft, whether that's number 1 overall or number 2 or 3. I don't know what it's going to end up being, but they're bad enough to where they are going to have a high pick in this year's draft. Right now they're at number 3. So could they end up being worse than Arizona and getting the number 2 overall pick? Are they going to stay at number 3? I don't know, but that would be the attraction of the job, right? Like, if you're a Vrabel or anybody else, the attraction of the job would be, okay, well, you have a chance to select a franchise quarterback here with a top pick and then go from there. I mean, the question, like, from the Titans' point of view is, if I'm trading Mike Vrabel, one of the things I'm going to be asking for is your first-round pick for this year. I don't know why you wouldn't ask for that if you're the Titans. So would you do that if you're the Patriots?
I don't know. I mean, but that to me should be first thing Amy says in this phone call that we're imagining. And and I can see the Patriots trying to, how about next year? La, 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 but I would think that would be a big deal when it's that high. That's a coveted pick. Craig says, no Vrabel to Ohio State talk today. I'm disappointed, y'all. We did talk about it. And I mean, can we do one show, one Vrabel job departure at a time? Maybe tomorrow can be a Vrabel to Ohio State day. Today has been Vrabel to the Patriots day. Okay. But we did talk about it, Craig.
We did. I mean, who knows? Maybe
we're trying to get rid of Vrabel. We're trying to send him somewhere. Okay.
Maybe Joe could write another column, and maybe it's like the reverse Midas touch. The Titans will just win every game from here on out after this year's Ohio State column, rather than losing every game like they did last year after you wrote it.
I mean, I could probably just change a few little words in the column and just pretend it's new and republish it.
So you're
by the way,
me there's a chance.
The Titans with a win yesterday, Joe, moved from, I believe, number 6 overall in the draft selection to number 10. So the Giants now at 6. Tampa Bay, the Jets, the Chargers have all fallen below the Titans. But by the way, I mean, I guess that at this point they're just getting through the rest of the season with him. But what is the value of leaving Brandon Staley employed at this point?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, he's lame duck. The Chargers in the Bedard report here on this situation, another aspect of this is the idea that another team out there covets Belichick.
Yeah.
So what Bedard wrote about was the Chargers were one of the teams mentioned, and they trade Belichick for draft capital, then use that draft capital to trade for Vrabel, which would be, I believe, an unprecedented coaching carousel in the NFL. But you know what? It just gets crazier every year, so why not? Would a team out there want Belichick that badly?
I don't know, man. I mean,
an
I get
question.
He's still in the conversation of greatest coaches of all time, but I don't know how you couldn't look at what's happened since Brady left and not think to yourself, do we really want to do that? By the way, Joe, we mentioned earlier the Frank Reich part of this, and that Tepper was mad after the game yesterday. They just fired Frank Reich.
Oh, my
The Panthers have fired Frank Reich, according to Ian Rappaport and multiple reports from the NFL Network. So what do you think of that?
My goodness.
Made it through 11 games. Got fired.
Yeah. That's crazy. Obviously, they invested a lot to get Bryce Young. People are dogging me about, you don't know that Bryce Young's a bust? No. This speaks to it. I mean, Bryce Young has had the worst situation of any quarterback in the league, but man, that's tough for Frank Reich. I mean, look, he hasn't been good. I feel bad for him though. He's a nice guy,
He's a nice guy. He's not a good football coach.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fired after 11 games. Jeez.
I guess you should know if you're 11 freaking games. If your owner's screaming F-bombs out in the hallway for all to see, you should probably fear for your job.
Probably not great. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Titans and the Panthers from yesterday. Also get into this weekend of college football as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, bud. Hey, I feel like everybody's too excited about that game yesterday. Like hearing, the radio and then seeing my internet feed on Facebook this morning. I feel like people are too excited. Like, we played the worst team in football. And, like, realistically, somebody had to win that football game. I didn't think we looked good. Like, you can say that the defensive line looked great or whatever. I mean, yeah, Bryce Young, I think he has a worse offensive line than we do. But, like, we looked sloppy. You see the penalty count? Like, we just look like such a bad, undisciplined football team. So, dude, I don't make anything out of that. Somebody had to win. I think there's a good chance we go back on a pretty hot losing streak coming up, and starting with the Colts and Gardner Minshew. And if we get swept by Gardner Minshew, dude, I'd give Vrabel away for a lot less than a first-round pick. Like, I would stop posturing with that and be like, hey, we need something, dude. So, yeah, I'm not impressed with what happened all yesterday, man.
Thanks for the call, Adam. Appreciate it. I mean, look, we talked about this earlier. I'm not anticipating yesterday's win with some changing of the guard for the Titans season. And when you look at their schedule, I envision a lot of losses coming up for the Titans based on the way things have gone to this point.
I mean, what are you guys talking about? This is a huge win. This is we will look back on this as a turning point as the Titans made an incredible run 4 years later, just like 4 years ago. They're about to turn this into an amazing run. No, but are people acting excited about this? Am I missing this?
Was anybody at the game yesterday?
There were people at the game. There was definitely some seats posing as fans.
Hey, look, the Titans just got a coach fired. That's how well they played yesterday. Titans just got a coach fired. Frank Reich lost his job after 11 games because the Titans looked so good yesterday.
Yeah, that is probably a good indication of how your season is going when a team loses to you and they fire their coach.
Yeah, probably not good. You lost to who? You're out.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's any illusions about what this win means.
Keith on the text line says Bryce Young, coach killer. Well done, Keith. It is kind of amazing. I was talking about this over the break. So Frank Reich has been fired from 2 jobs in like just over a calendar year, 2 head coaching jobs. That has to be an NFL record. There's no way it's not.
Yeah, right. So we could have that, and then in just a little bit later have the Titan, the double trade Vrabel Belichick. Someone asked about what about Belichick and Vrabel just being traded for each other. What do you say, Titans fans?
I mean, I say no. It's just me.
I would say no. I would say no also.
I mean, is he bringing Brady with him? Get Brady out of retirement?
Has Brady been in a cryogenic chamber this whole time, like losing years off his life? Then maybe yes. Point was brought up to me, obviously through things like this, you still have mandated interview processes with the NFL for a coaching change, so that's something that, you have to wait through the playoffs. All this, like, so there's a lot of this in today's NFL that would make it sticky, but if I am confident in the Patriots' ability to conduct sham interviews. I'm sure, considering all the effort they're going through right now to make this a thing, I'm sure they would get some sham interviews lined up.
Joe, quickly, your thoughts on Tennessee and Vanderbilt over the weekend. Tennessee wins 48-24 against the Doors. Doors finished the season on a 10-game losing streak.
Well, every day in this job, I write about a coach in the hot seat and getting traded or fired or whatever. And wrote about Clark Lee, and Clark Lee is going to get time. I mean, we talked about this last week. I disagree with you on him even being fired next year if they go 2-10, but we'll see. I mean, you just don't know when you go through it how people may change above him and how they look at it. But to me, that job is you sign up and it's like you don't even look until 5 years. But I will say that right now it's not going well, and Vanderbilt, when the portal opens up and everything, it's going to be really interesting. They've got the collective has gone well for them, but they're going to have to retain some players, and they're just going to have to get a lot better. He's going to have to get better. They're going to have to get better. Tennessee, well, Joe Milton was awesome. I mean, it helps to play Vanderbilt, right? You had a clean
6
pocket
touchdowns.
and you got wide open receivers, but he was throwing darts. I mean, he was throwing fantastic passes. It'll be good for him on senior day. You know, I mean, Heupel's still trying to put 50 on Vandy with Gaston Moore at the end, throwing it in the end zone. I thought Nico looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, his quickness. I mean, there is a little bit of Hendon Hooker in how he escapes the pocket and accelerates, you know.
I thought we were going to have a brawl for a second.
Yeah, that was out of hand. I mean, the Commodores charged across the field. I was like, what is about to happen here? And luckily, there were more people trying to calm that down. And, you know, the refs messed that up. I mean, they messed that up badly. Clark Lee got very fiery there, by the way.
He did.
You know, the Nico thing, I think the plan was for Nico to actually come in that game earlier, but, you know, it actually was a little competitive, a little bit longer than they anticipated. It'll be interesting in the bowl game. I think Joe Milton is going to play, and I think Joe Milton needs to play as much football as he can before the NFL draft. He's not like, you know what I mean? I think he's going to play. But also I think a pre-planned usage of Nico, I think would be a good idea in the bowl game. Why not?
Yep.
I mean, you know, it's like
totally
the Gator
agree.
Bowl, and I think, you know, try to get him going. I think he could be a special player, and he absolutely needs that year in the weight room. But I think that would be one of the most interesting things about the bowl game to come, which I think will be the Gator Bowl, is Nico playing.
Coming up next, you'll hear from Chase and Big Joe. They'll have you covered on all things from this weekend in sports. That does it for us today. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.